Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for our Friday edition video, where today we are featuring the Tier 9 German cruiser, the Roon. And also, as a reminder, tomorrow we'll be having our Community Ops Day and celebrating 1,500 subscribers for our NA server audience. I just put a poll up earlier today for the EU audience, so make sure to vote on that so we pick a date and time for that. All information is on the YouTube community post, so you can go check that out, and I'll try to remember to pin it below as well. So today, as I said, we're featuring Roon, and I need to make sure to clarify something. When I talked about Hipper and upgrade and commander build video, it was incorrect information I shared there, where I kind of referenced the high explosive on Hipper being decent. The high explosive on the German cruiser line is actually really good. And I just totally spaced that because I've been so busy this past week, over the last week with work, in real life stuff. Most ships in the game get, what would you say, 1 of 6 pins. So you divide whatever size the caliber of guns by 6, right? So if you're talking about 152 millimeter guns and you divide it by 6, that means you pin 25 millimeter. Or in the case of this heavy cruiser line, or the cruiser line here on the Germans, Roon has 203 millimeter guns, and they get quarter pin value. So dividing by 4 means that the statistics, you actually pin 50.75 millimeters of armor. So essentially 51 millimeters of armor you pin here with the German cruiser line. That has 2 and 3 millimeter guns. So today you're going to see me pushing Roon to its limits, playing a lot of how the ship is designed to be set up and played. And that is that her play style is that she's not a pusher. She can be, but she doesn't perform best in that role, and when my time of playing, that's mainly due to the positioning of her armament. So 2 of her 3 main battery turrets are on the stern of the ship, on the rear of the ship. So a lot of times you'll see Roon players kind of naturally set up for this kiting position. They get a little bit closer, they move up, and then they start turning out. And that is just to have effective firing angles, effective fire. I'm not sure what exactly the word I'm going for is here. But that's what they're going for and how the ship is set up here. So you can push in, and I'll talk about that. We just popped our really good German hydro, detecting ships at 6 kilometers away, torpedoes at 4 kilometers away. So we'll talk about her brawling potential. But the playstyle is that the Roon, and what I've played and tried out, she just feels better in that kiting role. And that doesn't mean you kite the entire game. When you need to reposition, you need to move up, you go dark, and try to get closer to your teammates and supporting them. And that's kind of what we have going on in this game. I didn't feel more comfortable pushing up. I kind of moved up a little bit on B, trying to help our DD and taking the Bravo cap. And then we had some battleships moving towards the 2-3 line here, and just being mindful of those firing angles. And your forward firing angles aren't really good. I mean, they're okay, but in my opinion, they're not so great. So then you risk being pinned, taking large penetration damage by enemy battleships if you're not careful in maneuvering, using your rudder shift, and you get a little greedy just to get your rear turrets on. Okay. Another reason why we haven't been able to push up more closer, why I might like to, is the positioning of our friendly battleships. So we have our sub, which we've lost. We've lost our destroyer already. And with the battleships positioning, you can see 2 are on the 4, well, actually both are on the 5 line. And then now I'm already having to turn out. With the friendly battleship here, the Marlborough, which he's going to live pretty long, so that's good on him. The ship's not amazing, but... so we're kind of forced to kite. One is you have a Schlieffen pushing in. I'm about to enter into a secondary range, and so I'm moving in the way I turned in is I keep the island between him and myself. So we need to focus Schlieffen because he is a threat if he pushes in. The devastation is going to be a really big problem for us in this game, as you're going to see why as the game goes throughout. Because it's basically a super conqueror with the heal, fire chance, and having more guns. So that is definitely going to be a challenge for us. So you can already see we are taking some secondary fire from Schlieffen as we're about to exit out Schlieffen's secondary range. And he's got really close to the island, so they stopped. So we're going to go ahead and burn the DCP. The cooldown on the DCP, if you take November Foxtrot, is roughly, I think it's like 57 seconds. Otherwise, it's a standard minute. So it's trying to utilize that well, and also that we have a submarine running around. And I've just informed my teammates that my hydroacoustic search is down, and we have a sub somewhere behind us. So you already see the depth charge planes going out here. So we're pretty much all huddled up here, which isn't amazing, but at the same time, we have a lot of firepower just in this one block as well. Not so much spanned out. There's the threat of the submarine. There's a threat of, I think it's a Shimakaze that's over here on the A flank. So naturally, it's going to have the battleship players nervous. One, it's Tsushima. Two, you know, getting shotgunned by a submarine is not fun for anyone. So there's the Shimakaze torps. There's the submarine torpedoes. So I'm trying to be tactile and retreating here. In my positioning, I'm being mindful. I'm respecting Georgia's 457mm guns. In the meantime, our Marcel's taking out the enemy black. The Schlieffen is playing really wise. He's utilizing islands and pushing up, and that's great because being a battle cruiser, you don't have a large helmet health pool, and you usually take pin damage. Now, here's a mistake. The Shimakaze gets caught out by our Iwami. So he's going to take some heat here. He just used his torpedoes not that long ago. Maybe they're already reloaded. I wouldn't think so just yet. There's a submarine still trying to shotgun our Iwami. And he does get him. And Gado is the best submarine in the game for shotgunning. So this is really unfortunate on our part. Now, in the meantime, Vermont's depth charges have taken out the Gado in return. So we've eliminated the destroyer submarine threat, excuse me. So that's really good. Now I'm going to keep focusing Shimakaze here because he's slowed down, he's in the smoke screen. However, Vermont's going to send a salvo in and finish him off because that Shimakaze got just a little too aggressive. Meantime, we are slightly behind on points. Our team has both Bravo and Charlie. A is just not going to be contestable yet until we trim down these other battleships pushing in on us. And now it's just 3 against 3 here, but Georgia's is just a little too far away to be of a concern. And we need to focus our fire. So in case the Shimakaze got any torpedoes off on us, I go ahead and pop my hydroacoustic search just out of concern and giving my battleships some information. Meantime, enemy Kitakaze has torpedoed our friendly Kitakaze. And in this situation, when you find yourself in a flank that's collapsed and you're kiting, you really want to be able to focus one battleship in trimming them down. Now, we are benefiting a little bit from the Shimakaze smoke because Schlieffen earlier wasn't able to see us. Now he's going to see us again because we don't have smoke between him and I. And we just need to keep focusing him here. He's got the fast damage control parties, but they don't last very long. So we got a double fire there. Calling for fire on there. We're also being mindful of the battleship and Bravo. So we're going to go ahead and reposition our ship. You see Alsace is taking shots at us. We're playing with the throttle, we're playing with the rudder, and that's really what does Roon well. Now we're still going to take blind fire shots because Schlieffen did DCP. And so we have that perma-fire on him down, and we really want to melt him down, and we get a second fire. The German cruiser line does really well with that HE DPM performance. Not only having, 3 fires. Not only having, or maybe someone else said perma-fire him, I don't know. Not only having the really good penetration values, but also really decent fire chance capabilities here. I've also been doing what I can to be mindful of Devastation's high explosive guns, because that can definitely begin to decrease our health pool value greatly. So we just have to keep being mindful here. In the meantime, enemy team still has the advantage Alsace is flipping Bravo. I've asked if it's possible to reset the Alsace. Looks like, I think it's the Georgia has moved into Bravo. So we're just going to keep being mindful here, but we're not going to see that Schlieffen again for a while. Now let me go ahead and just talk more about the ship in general. Because Roon is a pretty fun ship. I really enjoyed Hipper a lot. I'm enjoying Roon, but maybe not quite as much as I was enjoying Hipper. But that's just in terms of the ship playstyle, so on and so forth. Similar, but there's a few minor differences. So the Roon, as I talked about, has that hydroacoustic search, that German hydro, which is just really good and valuable for whether you're pushing in or you're kiting away, having to deal with torpedoes from enemy destroyers, submarines. Her other value in pushing in is her torpedoes, which are quite nice, and I just want to make sure I say this information accurately in regards to the torpedoes. So you have 4 torpedoes on each side, which this devastation is going to be doing a lot of damage to, and you saw he incapacitated one of the sets earlier. But these torpedoes, let's see here, the maximum damage 13,700. So if you're brawling in, pushing enemy battleship, you just want to make sure that, you know, that your torpedoes can do that knockout blow, taking into account torpedo protection, so on and so forth. But it's really great to have, but that range of the torpedoes is short. There are 6-kilometer torpedoes, so you're only spamming them really in close quarter situations, or if you have a ship that's just playing really aggro against you. Here we take a massive hit, almost 13,000 damage from the devastation. I've really been trying to put what fire aggression I can on Conqueror, but he just heals back that fire damage really well, and he has the super heal, to say the least. So we're going to turn our attention to the Alsace. You can see Georgia's pushing in aggro across the mid of the map. So we're kind of even right now, but things aren't looking too hot in terms of positioning. I think it was Marceau, he's torping the Alsace, and he's going to be a big key player in how this game goes in terms of his ability. He does well, and we'll talk about maybe some of the decisions he makes later on, as he's going to run over and he's going to flip Alpha, because there's no one to contest Alpha while throwing torpedoes and fire on the enemy Alsace. Back to the Roon. One of the things is you get the spotter plane. So you get 17.8 kilometer main battery range. Hipper, I believe, was 17.7, but you didn't get access to the spotter plane. So the spotter plane is really helpful, and probably when we look at the upgrade commander build video, we'll talk about the Eye in the Sky skill, I believe it's called, where you get more spotter planes, and the cooldown time is reduced by 50%. And so we'll look at the stats and specifics on that skill, because I just want to make sure that I am quoting that correctly. In the meantime, with that point difference not being so far apart, enemy team now has 800 points, and we have almost 500 points. Granted, we're about to take out the Alsace. You can see Marceau's firing, so he knows what the Marceau is up to. So he's going to go flip Alpha. The Schlieffen is playing him more passively because of that low health pool, so it's good for him. Now, the big thing that's been an issue, it's really difficult to deal with a Conqueror devastation in this regards, as permanently lose a torpedo set, is that the devastation between his really good HE fire spam, fire chance, and his repair party is that he is really distracting us from the objectives, being the caps. So we keep putting fire on him, a lot of shots. I mean, imagine by the end of this game, he probably easily had over 3 million potential damage, if not more. So he's really being a distraction at this point for us as a team. Because we need to push in and try to regain our foothold on the objectives. Our map control is quite poor, even though we have a Marceau and Alpha. But our map control is really poor. So we've used all of our heals. I have taken a 1.5 million potential damage at this point. We have 21,000 spotting damage. Not that that's a big thing with the Roon. But it's just that one of the mistakes we make with our team here is that we let the devastation distract us too much. And by the time we kind of realize how big of this distraction he's been, we just lose control, and it's going to make it really hard for us to get back into the game. So there needs to be a decision made here in what we're going to do. So we need to, one, defend C, and I'm trying to get my team to rally up to let's go and push into C. There's low health ships. Schlieffen is low. I think that was, yeah, Georgia. Georgia's decently low. So we can regain we can make up the points gap if we get some of these enemy ships knocked out. Devastation is just distraction for us at this point, and we're just really not going to be able to utilize that well. Enemy team is beginning to smell blood in the water because we're getting bottled up in our map awareness here. Now, in the meantime, Marcel has flipped A. Now he's on the Bravo. Now this is going to be a key thing here, is that he really needs to flip Bravo. He doesn't need to be so concerned about helping us get kills here. We need the points. He's stopping the enemy from getting more points, but we really need the points here. And him opening him up has put him in danger of getting reset, danger of dying, losing more health, because you can see the Kitakaze's engaged with him as me and the Nevsky are really opening up. And this Kitakaze plays really well, as our Nevsky takes out the Genon, so it's great. But this Kitakaze plays really well in terms of avoiding our incoming fire. So he's just like a... It's like trying to nail Jellos to the wall. He's just doing really good in his positioning here, and dodging Marceau, and also having to deal with the threat of the Nevsky and myself. In the meantime, the enemy Schlieffen that we allowed to live takes out Nevsky. So that's not great. Now the Nevsky is going to serve a crucial role here, and he's going to be my meat shield against the enemy Genon torpedoes. So that's great. Now we're close to being detected by Georgia. And we also need to get more kills here as well. Now, I think a misplay here is the Marceau left Bravo. Enemy team's now ticking back up to 2 caps. We have a minute left. And I think Marceau's feeling the pressure that we need to get the kills. Now, he is helping us spot the Schlieffen. So he does get credit for that. And I'm trying to get Marceau, hey, flip Bravo, I'm going to step on the C. 40 seconds on the clock. So we need to take out another enemy ship here. And Georgia has been chosen for selection. Now when I see the Marceau's going for C, I'm like, well shoot, this is the downside of Roon. So now, you know, 2/3 of my firepower is on the rear of the ship. I need to get my ship swung around. And the fastest way for me to do that with how my rear main battery turrets were facing was to turn away from the cap. Marceau's on C, he got to C sooner than what I could. But we do take out the Georgia. The points are so close here. And they didn't really need my help to take out the Georgia. But with only a few seconds left on the clock, unfortunately, this is just going to be a loss and ending with 1.7 million potential damage and 150,000 damage. So, that was a frustrating loss, but at the same time, it was a really good game. It was really close, so I really enjoyed this game overall. So we did 182 target hits, 5 incapacitations to destroyed, 10 set on fires. And, you know, we were doing some spotting for our team, of course. That was very helpful. We just really misplayed in letting the devastation take too much of our attention and focus. So I will save that on part of the cruisers and us battleship players by the end. And then maybe there could have been a little bit of a points difference there if Marceau had flipped Bravo. But regardless, he still did well. You can only do so much. Enemy team just outplayed us. They were just better. And I did compliment the Nevsky, Marceau, and Vermont for their contributions in this battle. We're going to top with 1,349 base XP on a loss. Here you can see our fire damage is 58,000 of that total 150,000. We didn't use any armor piercing. Armor piercing was really well. I had an example of it in a different game. Match I was considering showing, but it didn't feel like it stretched. I like stretching these ships and featuring these ships, whether it's a win or a loss, if I feel like it really shows the quality of the ships. And I didn't really talk so much about the tankiness that Roon possesses. That she can take abuse, but you need to moderate what abuse she takes, so you can be still alive at the end of the battle and hopefully making a meaningful impact. Whether it be points difference or killing that last enemy ship to help your team get the win. So well played to the enemy team, they did really well. Tomorrow we'll do an upgrade commander build video on the Roon. I'll go over the ship with you guys and gals and give you my thoughts and recommendations on the commander build. So until next time, take care.